China deal or this tariff reduction to 30%, it's also a 90-day plan, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it was like, let's push it really high and then come to 30 and people feel like, oh, that's much better. I don't know. I have no idea what they're thinking, but it's definitely a relief in the short term. We can also see it in the markets, right? The Nasdaq has been rallying to the upside for the last 6 weeks.
Be on your toes. Just know that anything can happen. Be prepared for it. I think complacency is the mother of all, we'll say, bugger-ups.
I'm not a politician here, but there are many ways I feel that probably could be better in the long run. The tariffs were, on paper, not a bad idea, I guess, but the market reacted very negatively to it.
When you trade, just keep that in mind. We are in a tariff war.
Hello everyone and welcome to another Hola Prime podcast. I'm joined by our trading coaches, Richard and Yanni, who I'm sure you're familiar with, and we're going to be discussing about the US/China trade deal. Well, what do we think? Is there relief in the market, or is it just a temporary fix? Is it going to continue? Hard to say, right? At this point in time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a relief. I mean, for the tariffs to come down from 145%. I think on certain goods it actually went up to 245%. So that's ridiculous. Well, that's really, really high, right? So the 30% is definitely a relief. But just remember the 30% is on top of what it used to be. Right? So it's still 30% on top of what it used to be. And perhaps maybe that was part of the plan. Maybe it was like, let's push it really high and then come to 30 and people feel like, oh, that's much better. I don't know. I have no idea what they're thinking. But it's definitely a relief in the short term. And we can also see it in the markets, right? The Nasdaq has been rallying to the upside for the last 6 weeks. So it looks like on the charts, it looks like it is approaching the previous highs, but I'm still a bit cautious. I'm a bit nervous because, I mean, this is also this China deal or this tariff reduction to 30%. It's also a 90-day kind of a plan, right? So we don't know what's going to happen after the 90 days. Are they going to are they going to settle on 30%? Are they going to push it back up again? We don't know what they're discussing behind closed doors. So it makes it very tricky, but I think at least we can expect, I assume anyway, because it's now in place for the next 90 days, we can assume just like a regular trading conditions until that point. Now, the rest of the world, they are also on this 90-day pause. Now, I think probably, I don't know how much time has gone since that announcement, maybe a month, maybe even more. I'm not sure, but that's also still in play, right? Because when the 90 days is over, then we're going to get new news, and that's going to have an impact on the market. So I think during those times, especially from a trader's perspective, we just need to be very cautious around those times. But the good news is, at least we know when to expect this type of news. If they say 90 days, then we know, okay, we're approaching that time frame now. So it's probably time to step back and be a little bit more cautious.
I think you're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. When it's completely unscheduled and there's no timeline, that is very difficult to trade as traders because anything can happen, right? But when there is like scheduling, like you said, 90 days, we know, okay. We have some kind of...
Though, this 90 days can at any tweet, as Yanni said earlier, end in chaos again. I don't think this 90 days is like written in stone either, although as you guys mentioned, the markets are obviously skyrocketing at the moment with me following the indices especially. But it's also erring on the side of caution. It's I think there's a lot of comparisons the other day. I've reckoned or read or seen a chart back. I don't know when there was a stock crash, 1980s or something like that. I have a similar chart pattern. It looks like it's going to break the new highs, and then all of a sudden something happened, and it's repeating itself. Obviously, different economic climate or conditions, tariffs being imposed this time around. Didn't know what happened or caused that back then, but yeah, very too little pullbacks. So if you're not on the train already on the indices, it's very difficult to try and buy just at these highs.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a serious pullback at some stage? And yeah, as a trader, that's what we look at the chart. Not being honest, you just see how the market's reacting and what investors as uh, together, all obviously on what the charts are telling us.
Yeah. I mean, we're having a pullback on the indices literally today.
Yeah.
So it's the
Mhm.
first, I would say, somewhat major pullback we've had in quite a while. So who knows? It's hard to say, but you're definitely right. Although it's 30% more than it was, the markets have definitely reacted positively to it, which is a good sign. And hopefully, well, we don't know, but I mean, as traders, as day traders, whether it's good, bad, as long as the market has a direction,
Mm.
I think we're all pretty happy
Yeah,
as long as you
yeah,
don't own any stocks
Yeah,
outright.
like well, except for obviously those moments like the announcement that came out that there's going to be a 90-day pause,
Yeah,
and the rumors about insider trading because a big move happened 20 minutes before the announcement. But
yeah,
those times are incredibly difficult to trade.
yeah.
Because if you're a trader, you'll know that, especially if you're a scalper, your ATR, like I saw candles, or the ATR was like 100 points, more than
mm,
100 points on a single candle. That means a 1 minute candle is the size of a 4 hour candle.
Wow.
So during those times, it's incredibly difficult to trade, and it's totally unexpected, right? It's
oh yeah,
Yeah.
completely unpredictable because it was just this announcement that you just can't predict. So hopefully the worst is behind us. Certainly, I think the last week, 2 weeks, or whatever it was definitely more calmer trading conditions. So there were no surprise tweets. Like this almost feels like a tweet driven market, right? Any
yeah.
kind of like breaking news type
Yeah.
of market conditions, or not market conditions, but any tweet with surprising news, unexpected news that can really affect how investors think and their response to it makes it very difficult for us.
1,000,000%. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
feel for day traders in this current period, it's really, really important just not just to keep up with obviously the scheduled economic news on the calendar, but to keep your eye on what important figures, the president, etc., are tweeting, I guess. I mean, Twitter's almost become, sorry, X has almost become, in a weird way, a
Mm.
um, a source of news like at the forefront, and we have
Surely
to
so.
keep our eye on it because like you said, anything can happen. One tweet can move the market
Mm.
a stupid amount, and you do not want to be caught up in that. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be on top of it, I think, at this
Be
stage.
be on your toes.
Yeah,
Just know that anything can happen, and yeah, just be prepared for it. I think complacency is the mother of all, we'll say, bugger ups,
Yeah.
especially when to
Yeah, I
trading.
think yes, you just always have to keep in mind, just never lose sight of the fact that this trade war is still ongoing. It's not over. All these like wheeling back in the percentages and so on of the tariffs is it's a temporary thing. It's a 90-day thing. What's going to happen after that, we don't know, because you have to also remember that the current administration in the US, they're very serious about reducing debt. Okay,
hmm,
because the debt is a massive problem for the US. So the tariffs was an attempt to solve that problem. Now,
yeah,
obviously, it caused problems in the markets as we've seen. So now they've rolled that back for
Yeah.
now, but that doesn't mean it's over because they're still committed to solve this debt crisis.
mm,
So it will be interesting to see how this unfold and what's going to happen after this 90-day period.
mm,
Are we just going to settle? I mean, the only people that will know this is the people like right up in the towers, right? All the people discussing things behind closed doors, and it's not probably getting out to the public. Um, We don't know, right? So it's just never lose sight of that. The trading war is definitely not over.
No.
It's actually, any war. This is just a trading war, but they call it a war for a reason because a war typically goes on for a period of time, right?
Yeah.
It carries on and on. There's disagreements and there's a pushback and there's retaliation and there's, that's all of that kind of stuff. We can probably see exactly the same thing again after 90 days. Right, with whatever the administration puts up on the table, all the other countries will say, no, 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 we don't like that. And then they push back with something else. And then we just right back to where we were 6, 7 weeks ago, maybe longer than that. I think it was about 7 or 8 weeks ago, when all of that turmoil started in the markets, makes it very difficult to trade. So always, like when you trade, just keep that in mind. We are in a trading, not a trading war, in a tariff or war. So be cautious, and there are ways to check for that apart from the unexpected news. But you can also see it in the volatility when you see larger than normal kind of swings, and the ATR is drastically picking up, or just sudden moves, and there's no news to explain why. So there are those type of signals that you can watch out for. But it is
With the
definitely a time.
sizable amount of the debt that it's not going to take the 4 years of his term. It's going to take a long time to actually try to just put a dent in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
As long as
true.
people can then just see, listen, something is being done and that it is actually having a bit of an impact, then, over the run, potentially it'll be even better for the markets. I do believe this has all been strategic in the US, maybe to force China into, taking it serious. And I think those big numbers that were thrown around is probably not going to, those inflated numbers. So the 90-day tariff of like now, this plan that they got in place, or the pause as they call it, maybe those are going to be the normalized numbers we'll see going forth. But at least now, I think the two super governments are serious about talks, actually. Yeah, I mean, how much is the national debt at the moment? It's like something like $1 trillion or something stupid like that.
Was that
Yeah.
in the US? It's 35. I
Absolutely,
think it's 35 trillion. There's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, talking what?
No, it's a problem.
Obama era,
It's a big
then so
problem.
it's risen even more, almost doubled.
Yeah, look, it is a big problem, and that is what they're trying to solve. So tariffs, the initial approach didn't go according to plan, shall we say? But the US, they want to bring manufacturing back to the US, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And especially during the COVID area, that we saw that, especially with the masks and so on, they couldn't get supplies because they don't have those. They used to be pretty big in manufacturing, but that's been eroded over the last 40, 50 years.
Yeah,
And it's all been going to China, and China is the manufacturing superpower of the world. There's no question. So to bring that back to the US, like solid, I don't see anything wrong with that, but I do think that's going to take a long, long time, because well, like they say, it takes it's quicker to say break down a building than to build one, or so,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But
yes,
for them to bring it back, you need like a whole ecosystem. Like you need, and this includes universities and colleges and so on, presenting courses in the manufacturing or mass production environment, highly specialized, which the US, they don't have that, right? They don't have that. Where China is, well, again, they are the superpower in terms of manufacturing. So to
for
bring it
sure.
back, I think it's going to take a long, long time. So I think that's a long-term solution, but in the short term, yeah, I'm not really sure how they're going to
Yeah.
solve this debt crisis if this tariff idea, which is the proposed solution for the debt crisis, if
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
I
So
mean, regardless of which method they choose, when you have, what was it, $37 trillion of debt,
yeah, it's a
it's going to
lot.
take decades. I mean, there's no question that you can't you can't solve a debt crisis like that
Yeah.
in a short term. It's going to have to be something, a plan that you're going to have to set out for the next 30, 40, hell, 50 years, you know. And it's building blocks, like you said. It's one thing wouldn't just magically solve it. There has to be, you know, you have to tackle the root cause of the problem. America has
Mm.
some, you know, huge companies, right? Massive, massive companies. And you're absolutely right. They a lot of their manufacturing, they outsource it to
Yeah.
places like China. If they did bring it into the US and kept the money within the US, so to speak,
Mhm.
um, of course, that would be hugely beneficial to the economy. But
Mm.
there are many other ways you could potentially go around doing that.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I don't, I'm not a, I'm not
Tough one.
a, you know, I'm not a politician here, but there are many, many ways I feel that probably could be better in the long run. The tariffs were, on paper, not a bad idea, I guess, but they, like you said, the market reacted very negatively to it. Something had to be, you know, cut off there. You can't just have the stock market and trillions of dollars being lost um, because of one thing. You're doing almost the opposite of what you
Yeah.
originally wanted to do.
Mm.
Um, I feel there has to be, like you said, even with institutions like university stuff, there has to be from the new generation, there has to be a new mindset put in. I think pushing more of an entrepreneurial spirit. America's historically known to be very entrepreneurial, right? The land of opportunity. Get that
Mm.
coming back in from the newer generation. And you might get in 20 years' time, you know, people building the next Apple or the next Microsoft or the next
Yeah.
whatever. Do you know what I mean? That I feel would be the better plan, but it is very long. It's going to be stretched out. You're not going to see the effects in the next 5, 10 years. But
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
the
mean,
US,
sorry, Rich.
especially the young crowd, is at a real huge tipping point. Hugely emotional.
mm,
I mean, you only have to look at some YouTube videos at some of the campuses. Trump haters, Trump lovers. There's no unity. It's a huge split,
yeah,
and people need to start getting together. I mean, I can talk about this in our country in South Africa, where me and Yannis, we have the same sort of thing. Nothing to do with tariffs so much, more of race issues and those sort of stuff. But you're absolutely right, Yanni. There needs to be sort of educational to understand how these things work, because I don't think people understand tariffs either. Yes, it was a not fantastic, a huge shock, the number that he proposed. Again, I think it was tactically done, and there was always the thought that they'll reduce it eventually to
mm,
force talks to happen. But it caused a huge divide, even more so amongst the youngsters. They can't afford houses, living expenses, have to have two, three jobs. You complete college or university, you can't find a job, that sort of stuff.
mm,
The path forward, there needs to be some sort of understanding from the younger crowd, because obviously they are future or their future, as to why these things happen. And yes, people hate the slogan "Make America Great Again," but in context of you need to look after yourselves as well. Bring back, like in Detroit was a huge car manufacturing industry, which completely destroyed.
mm,
Um, you know, they supplied most of their cars to their own people in America. And now everything's mostly imported. Obviously, it's cheaper. You want to bring now back industries, create more jobs, those sort of things. But the youngsters, the generation really want to, do they want to work from home or want to get their hands dirty? It's
yeah.
difficult.
I
Yeah,
There's bigger
yeah,
problems than just the tariffs.
I do question whether the newer generation, especially more in Western countries like America, whether manufacturing jobs are going to be filled
Yeah.
by, I mean, how many younger people are now entering the workforce dream of working in manufacturing?
Yeah,
you'll
everybody
you'll
wants to be a
struggle.
YouTuber. Everybody wants to
Or
be
Well,
a
a
yeah,
TikToker. TikTok's on the table. But yeah,
yeah.
because historically they're not well paid, and if something's not well paid, you don't aspire to for that job. You might just end up in that job after lots of failures or whatever, or that's the best you can get.
yeah.
That no one's wakes up and say, "Hey, I want to work in a factory." It's
No.
rare. Do you see what I mean? Unless you're
Yeah,
really
that's
passionate
true.
about something, it's not really a desirable career.
No,
So
that mindset has changed. I mean, back in the days, you wanted to have a small family with a white picket fence. Your dad could work in the local car manufactory or factory or whatever the case might be. You could afford a house, put your kids through school, college, city. The American dream, is that still really there? Potentially, maybe for our sort of age group, but for the youngsters coming through, see it like that way at all.
yeah. Yeah, and I think there needs to be a mindset shift. But not just
Mm.
that, there has to be, like, if you want people working in those kind of industries and increase manufacturing, you need to make it worth their while. If you can't afford rent on a single job or you can't afford to live, they're just they're only going to be filled by people, people entering the country, immigration, people with, who are more eager for the opportunity to work. They're going to be filled by, yeah. So
Companies from overseas that wants to invest in the US and not use American people,
exactly,
probably. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but the other thing that we just need to keep in mind is like this huge rise of AI, and Tesla is building these Optimus robots. So
Hmm.
that could change the game, right? That
Mm,
could mean that maybe you don't need factory workers anymore.
mm,
Maybe it's going to replace by just a bunch of robots. So that is definitely something that people, especially people in the who's really at the forefront of AI, who shares this kind of information with the leaders of the countries and so on, and say, well, look, you probably won't have that problem. You probably won't have this labor issue that you think you're going to have, because this is what's
yeah,
happening currently. And we're probably going to have a bunch of robots running around doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe they look past that, because I
yeah,
agree with you. It's definitely, who wants to do that? You think about labor is a lot cheaper in the US. Not in the US, sorry, in
China.
China and in
Mm.
India and so on, right? It's just cheaper to manufacturing things there. But because of the rise of AI, that could change everything.
Mm. You're absolutely
So
right. There is an AI arms race, so to
Ooh.
speak, going on.
Mhm.
I guess whichever company starts building the manufacturing robots themselves, that's the one to invest in.
yeah. Well, I
And that's
mean,
coming. It's coming. It's already sort of
well,
here. Yeah.
yeah, well, the Optimus robot from Tesla, I think they have a few prototypes out already. They apparently it's not going to be very strong. I think like they say it's something like a 10-year-old will be able to overpower it. Um, but what if like 100 of them comes at you? That's going to be a bit difficult to fight off. But yeah, that's here. It's right here. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
But I also just wanted to mention this level of this aggressive attack on, which is good, on this debt crisis. This is the one thing about democracies, right? You've
Mm,
got 4 years. I think Richard, you just touched upon it earlier. Then they've got 4 years to implement things and make that change, because if say in the next election, if someone else comes into power, or say the Democrats, for example, they come into power, they will go, well, that was all no good, or some of it, we'll keep some of it, we'll change a lot of it, and
Hmm.
then you see what I mean. It's almost like you're starting all over again. So
mm,
that I feel is part of the reason why there's this urgency,
Yeah.
this huge urgency to get
People need
things
to see
done.
the effect like sort of soon. Otherwise
yeah.
it's always this blame games like Obama did this, Biden did this, and then Trump and stuff. Trump's fault from what happened for when he was, it's like pointing fingers is not going to help anymore.
No, you're
This
absolutely
is
right.
crunch time. We need to do something now. They need to do something now.
Yeah.
But we could just watch from the sidelines and pray that, something's going to be done. Because in the end, if something huge financially happens in America, stock market crashes again, or even worse than it did recently, it draws the world down with it. So we're all
Mm.
affected by it,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
We've all
Ultimately,
just been thrown in a huge recession, um, and we're all going to feel it globally,
yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah,
Ultimately, Democrats and Republicans need to kiss and make up. There's got
yeah,
to be less of a divide. I feel there's too much of a divide where it becomes, like you said, just a finger pointing game. Ah, your side did this, or and then you're never gonna have that unity
Peace and
where,
harmony, yeah.
yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
but like even if the problem with like if you the two biggest parties obviously, and we're not picking any side. That's not what we're doing. Yeah, but just to say that there are two parties. You need to pick one or you need to pick the other one, and those are your choices, right?
yeah,
You like, and when you pick the one, you subscribe to everything they stand for. And the same with the other part, you subscribe to everything they stand for. Now, you may not agree with everything. You may
mm,
agree with, say, half of
yeah,
this side and half of that side. And now you're like, but on an individual level, you could feel like, what's important to me, that is the most important thing to me, and that may kind of drive you to the one side or the other. But
yeah.
imagine there was a democracy that was more like a buffet,
mm,
right? You just kind of pick what you like what's important to you, and then they go and look at, well, let's look at what is most important to most people, and then that is what they kind of that's what
yeah,
they represent and that's what they focus on. But
Maybe
it
on some
is,
alien planets.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, look, it sounds like a crazy idea, but theoretically, it's more than possible with technology now. Imagine if instead of voting for one leader, one president, prime minister, whatever, or party, sorry, people could vote on the actual laws that pass that make that actually affect everyone,
Yeah,
right? So, a new bill comes in, people can, open up an app and actually vote yay or nay on it. And it's like completely independent on what the benefits, cons, pros and cons of it. I would say would be like the ultimate democracy. But again, I just don't think it would probably
Don't
ever
think we already
they
happen or
got
want to.
work.
Yeah, because but you're right, because the democracy only kind of, it's like this big wall, right? This democracy gets you to that point, and then behind that wall, they just do whatever they want anyway,
Yeah,
right? And he's like, "What are you doing now? Like, why are you bombing them now? Why are you
yeah,
doing this? Why are you doing that?" Like, so it's not, people didn't vote for that specifically, the details. So I
yeah,
agree with
yeah.
you, Sam. Like, it would be great if you could well, again, this buffet kind of democracy, kind of just pick,
Smorgasbord.
yeah, you pick what's important to you, and then they can kind of you. But anyway, this is just daydreaming. That will never
yeah.
happen.
Doubt it.
But let's shift it
Yeah,
back to a trader's perspective. We've gone well off
yeah,
well off path there. But for a day trader, and we're only going to talk about day traders rather than not so much investors, because investors, you're holding stuff for so long, it kind of doesn't matter that much. But from a day trading perspective, all right, the tariffs, we saw the effect. We kind of know that 90 days, yep, there's a bit of a pause and who knows what will happen. But even after that 90 days, you're right when you said that the aim of the game was to clear the debt, so to sort of make a dent in the debt. Um, what other aggressive policies could come out that could have more of an effect? Could this be a very turbulent, or turbulent 3 years remaining for day traders? Could this be great opportunity for us? I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Whenever there's volatility, if you're on the right side of the market, you're loving it. If you're on the wrong side, you're tearing your hair out.
Gosh,
So, um, I
look,
don't know about you guys, but for
yeah,
me at
look, I mean,
least, I
I agree.
found the volatility was nice. Probably had
yeah,
my best quarter.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, look, apart from the actual like release itself, the news, the shock news at that moment. That's pretty dangerous. But but after that, it remains volatile, and there are some great opportunities. For example, I mean, we saw say the pound US dollar moving 500 pips in like 2 days, right? That is a usual with an usually during normal market conditions, you're probably looking at an ATR of about 80 pips a day. So 500 is massive. And then the 2-3 days that followed that, there was a 500 pip swing right back up. I'm talking about the pound US dollar now specifically. So, and it just trended beautifully. It's not choppy or anything. It's just strong move. So, yeah, definitely, great opportunities during this particular time. So it would be great if we get it for the next 3 years, but as long as it doesn't come at the cost of any like economic crisis or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you could argue
as day traders,
sorry, Richard.
trade up or down. Volatility is good if you're on the right side of it. Certainly expect way more volatility. Probably some massive swings downwards still. Potentially not too new for the year. But I've been expecting since the beginning of the year. But yeah, just trade what you see, follow your strategy, maybe adapt it if need be. But yeah, traders, I don't think we're too fussed,
Yeah.
We can trade both sides.
I think the ATR will be your best friend
Yeah.
moving forward. Definitely always keep your lot size and what you're risking in line with the actual movement ATR itself. Especially if you're day trading, like we've probably experienced this. You're looking at a chart and the candles look relatively normal, but until you measure them, you realize, whoa, this candle is 3-4 times the size, than it was yesterday on average. And if you're just entering at like not a standard lot, but like a standard lot size that you always use, you can get very easily caught out. Yeah, you have to be very aware of the volatility. Not
For
just,
sure.
it moving up and down, but I mean the actual amount it moves per minute or per 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. The ATR.
Count.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think one thing that I have noticed, and maybe you guys can just chip in here, is that price action is still king, right? You can still everything you need to know is unfolding on the charts, and you can read it, right? You can read like if it's going up, you can see it's going up. It's on the charts, right? If there's a pullback, you can read it, and if you're trading support resistance or any of those kind of stuff, you can still wait for that, and they still play out, they still work. So that's great for us, right? It's still great for us, but as you've mentioned, Sam, it is important to look at your ATR to make sure that and the reason why that is important so that you can adjust your position size. Because if your ATR is 3 times bigger than what it used to be, that means you need to trade 3 times smaller, right? Otherwise, you're going to expose yourself 3 times bigger than you would like to.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Yeah.
100% agree there, for sure. Just keep your expectations also in check, right? If you did manage to get onto this bull run as a swing trader in the indices, for example, then be sure that it can change at any time,
Yeah. Yeah, keep your
Be cautious.
expectations realistic and don't get too greedy. It's very easily, once you had, like, if you capture a really nice move and the market's nice and volatile and it's moving a lot, and you think, wow, that was like one of my best trades ever. Very easy to get caught in that mindset where you think the
Oh,
next
yeah.
trade will be just as good or better, and you start risking more, and yeah.
Then you just give it all back. You
Yeah.
give it all back
End
to the guy you
badly,
took it from. Yeah. No, I agree
for
with that.
sure.
You should take a break. Well, that's a completely different topic. But yeah, in terms of probably to just to recap what we spoke about is yeah, it's the trade war. Is it over? Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not. Be cautious. Make sure you follow the news to stay on top of big announcements. At least, as we spoke about earlier, at least we have some sort of timeline. We can expect when this is likely to happen, when the
Mhm.
new agreements will be put on the table or new
Mhm.
proposals will be put on the table. Um, But as you said earlier, Richard, that doesn't mean we can't expect any surprise kind of tweets or breaking news that will have an effect on the markets.
That 90 days come over on Monday. Something happens on the weekend.
Yeah. What we can
but
actually do, bit off, not off topic, but what we could do is we could actually create a channel within our Discord where we can send all of our viewers, any of the breaking news alerts coming out that could affect the market. So if people, if you guys would be interested in that, let us know in the comments. We can certainly do that. Good way to keep on top of it. We can, anyone tweeting something, we can put it up in Discord, so you don't have to do all the legwork yourself. We're more than happy to do that. So I think that'll be pretty good. But you'd have to join our Discord for that. So in the description.
Yeah. It's free. I mean, why not? It's free.
Exactly. Yeah. Lots of good stuff on our Discord. So absolutely. If you haven't yet, click the link in the description. There's a little button. Join our Discord. I'm sure you'll love it. But not trying to promote too much here. Let's move away from the shameless plug. I think, yeah, both of you are absolutely right, spot on. Keep on your toes, keep an ear to the market, make sure you're not caught out on anything. This isn't the end. It's not all going to be magically back to normal. I'm sure we'll have, in the next few months, surprising stuff will come out, which will affect the markets. But until that happens, we can only speculate. So
yeah.
Well, Yanni, sure. Richard, it's always a pleasure doing these little chats with you guys.
Likewise, Sam, Richard.
Yeah, and I'm sure in a couple of months we'll be doing another one about the next big thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
interesting.
Sure. Awesome. And to all the viewers, thank you guys for watching. Like I mentioned earlier, join our Discord. If you really, want to keep up to date with the market, we can certainly create a channel within our Discord where you can subscribe completely for free. Check it every time you wake up, have a quick look. You'll be kind of kept up to date with everything and hopefully not caught out in any volatile, crazy swings. So join our Discord. It's completely free. You'll love it. Also, like this video, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with your friends, turn on channel notifications. Basically click every button you see on the screen and that will make us happy. But until then, thank you for watching, and until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Cheers.
Hola Prime. Trade with transparency.